Hello Gemini friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my Gemini October 2022 Astrology Horoscope. This is for you if Gemini is your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign, or any other placement that you are watching for Gemini. And if you are a very late degree Geminis, we'll say around June 15th through the rest of the sign, or like 23 degrees or so through the rest of the sign, then I additionally suggest you listen to my Cancer report because you very late degree friends will benefit from both readings. The theme that we're going to talk about here is true love's kiss, and there's kind of a lot to talk about in this topic. So we are going to talk about that, but we also have to talk about all of this. October is one of the most intense, power-packed months of the whole year. We have a lot going on. I'm going to give you a quick summary and then we're going to dive into the chart. So this month we have more salty aspects compared to sweet ones. Salty aspects is a term that I coined for when the planets are not getting along and they are in disharmonious angles. So we definitely have a lot of sweet aspects, so you'll get nice kisses, another one of my terms, along the way. That's when the planets are in harmony. But these salty aspects are really going to make it like we've got speed bumps, okay? So you're cruising along and then a bump, cruising along and then a bump. And that combined with all of this retrograde energy, it really tends to slow things down. Geminis don't naturally move in a slow way, so this is going to be a little bit of an adjustment for you. But if you know that it's coming, then you can just relax, and when the speed bumps come, you can say, oh, Annie said that was going to happen. So you have the choice to just be mad about the speed bumps and try to keep forcing, which is the big no-no for the Mars retrograde especially, and the other retrogrades. Or you can just take it easy, relax, go with the flow, and let synchronicity guide you along your path. We are going to have a wrap-up of this Mercury retrograde energy. So the first half of the month is just Mercury, the ruler of contracts and plans and, in some cases, clarity about direction. It's going to be a little foggy in the first half of the month, but by the middle of the month, around October 17th, it'll be completely clear. You'll start to be able to see more steps ahead of you. Sometimes retrogrades can bring us really into this inward and backward. Well, not sometimes, always, that's really the thing. But particularly Mercury retrograde, as far as planning goes, you can only really see what the first step in front of you, barely at all. And then once the fog clears here, you can start to see the rest of the path a little bit more easily. So hopefully if you've got to make any plans or schedule anything, it'll be easier for you to do that as the month goes on. Mars retrograde is going to be especially powerful for Geminis because it's in your sign. So we'll talk about that more, but right here, let's just know that it officially goes retrograde October 30th through January 18th, but that long shadow period started in early September around the 4th and stretches until mid-March. So this is a very long period of time where Mars, the ruler of ambition and oomph and get up and go and flow and forward movement, is going backwards. So you can see why if you try to force action, which is what Mars rules, action, and, again, ambition, drive, the will to take action, then, you could have a problem. But if you just take this as a time to relax and, not push and just know that other people might be lazy and you might be lazy and they might not show up and you might not show up. And if you can drop your agenda, that's the biggest thing to do. You don't want to have an agenda in any of these retrograde, especially the personal planets, but especially Mars. If you're trying to force something, it's really going to go downhill. So hopefully a word to the wise is sufficient there. Jupiter, the ruler of benevolence, expansion, and growth, is still retrograde until November 23rd. So what that means is that big projects that Jupiter had been expanding before, which could really have to do with, for you, friendships, acquaintances, community-based projects, internet-based projects, websites and such, technological advances, things like that, acquaintances, networking, might have seemed to kind of start going backwards as of July. That's because it did. Jupiter was there. It was heating things up. But it's Jupiter's job to build a nice, strong, well, it's a lot of the outer planets' jobs to do this, but Jupiter is the growth expander, can help you build your skyscraper of your experience. But when it goes in retrograde, it's really helping you out, even though it seems like things are cooling off, because it's testing your foundation to make sure it's strong enough for your skyscraper to go even higher. Because you don't want to have a topply skyscraper of creation, right? So this is a time where things get to slow down. You kind of get to catch up with what's been expanding, take a little break, have some integration time. So you'll be noticing that, especially in this area. And also in your own vision and view of yourself, because Jupiter is in the sign of Aries, which rules the first house, which is being accentuated by Mars. So this is a very big piece, and we'll get back to this when we talk about the True Love Kiss later. But, your image, yourself, your recognition, your physical body, your relationship with your physical body, who you are out in the world as far as how people see you, what you're presenting, how you want to be seen. All of that is sort of having a reevaluation, and it's really time for experimentation. In many cases, without any expectation of creating something permanent, where you're just sort of trying things on. In a low-stakes way would be even better. This is kind of one of the principles I put in here of retrogrades, is try to do this low-stakes experimentation, because then it could work out super well, but if it doesn't, then you're not losing anything. Okay, and so then we have the full moon in Aries. This is actually in a very favorable angle for you. And we've got eclipses, back into eclipse season, the heat of eclipse season, and the last Saturn-Uranus square. This Saturn-Uranus square has been dictating a lot in the cosmos and in our global and personal experience all through 2021 and 2022. So we'll talk about what this means for you. All right, so let's get to this topic of true love's kiss now. And this might turn out a little bit differently than it sounds, because there are a lot of layers to this. But the first thing that's very directly related to exactly how it sounds is that you've got the Sun, Venus that rules love, Mercury about to go, all in Libra. Okay, Mercury is going to be in Libra soon. Libra is a sign of partnership. And this is the Libra time of year. So everyone kind of has partnership energy out in front of them. But for Gemini, this energy is accentuating your 5th house of true love. Okay, so there's a lot of energy here. And we also have star goddess Vesta that rules home, family, and also your sacred flame, like what makes you excited and passionate, either for somebody else or for your creative passions, that what makes your passion fires burn. And Saturn, the energy of longevity and stability. And all of these are making a grand trine for you. A grand trine is the most fabulous of all fabulous aspects. A trine is most fabulous. And then the grand trine, where we've got, 3 connections of 120 degrees, is just the most wonderful. And all of this is connecting the story of you, love, your way of seeing things, your philosophies, long-term, home and family. This energy is also the house of children. Could be creative babies for those of you who don't have your own, but certainly conception, so from the spark of true love, or the spark of love, and, everything that moves towards the direction of kids, all of that stuff is here. And then the children, the child rearing, the birth, all of that is here. So the chance for love to come in is very, very strong. And the chance for love to return in the relationship that you already have is also very strong. And the chance for new additions to your love relationship in the form of children or a deepening of relationship is also very strong. But one of the things that I really want to point out here as it relates to this first house being accentuated from the Mars retrograde in your sign, and this energy, in Aries, and particularly Jupiter here, also making a nice angle, is that our self-love, like literally how we feel about ourselves, our self-esteem, is actually the most important part of being in a happy relationship. Of course, the love of the divine and the connection to spirit is really the only unwavering thing that we can, that whoever you call the person you pray to or whatever you believe there, like our connection to spirit is the deepest true love. Our divinity and connection to the greater force that we have within us, that is also without outside, is very important. So the more we are right spiritually, whatever that means for us, the more we can be happy in relationships and have experienced that energy of true love, because it becomes magnetic. But of critical importance here is self-esteem. So when people are doing bad things to themselves, self-deprecation, not treating themselves well, not eating well, in other ways putting themselves in bad situations, because of things that happened in our ancestry, things that happened in our, as a child, all of this really wants to be rectified. And we can see it show up more and more. And so anytime we're looking for someone to come in on a horse and save us, okay, so my horse looks like a little bit like a dog, but whatever, you get the point. So if you're expecting someone to come in on a horse and save you, the odds of that person bringing you happiness are very low. And this is a really critical storyline for Gemini to realize at this time, is that every coin that you put in your piggy bank, so every coin you put in your piggy bank of self-esteem and self-love and self-care and healing the wounds is going to help you be even more magnetic. Here's you. And if you're listening on the podcast and you want the visuals, my YouTube channel has the syndication of the podcast. And if you don't want my visuals and you want to just listen, you can also find my podcast, Astro Kisses, and just get the audio version. Although who wouldn't love my visuals, right? Anyway, so here you are, and you're putting coins in your piggy bank of self-esteem, and you're getting super attractive to your true love, because you're not looking for your true love to solve anything. You're finding that happiness within inside of yourself, and then it's radiating out and making you super magnetic, because the need, the desire, we'll just say feeling that you need to be whole by having somebody else is like a deficit. And then if someone comes and plugs into that deficit, then if they leave, then you're left all forlorn, and that is no place for you to be, right? You have to have your happiness inside of you and then join with someone else who has their happiness inside of them. And there's a really good chance for this whole process to escalate at this time. So it's very exciting. Okay, so let's talk more about this Mars energy and as it relates to your personal energy field here. Gemini's energy moves in a spiral. Okay, I always come back to explain this to you all because it's so critical. I'm a Sag, and our energy moves in an upward spiral as well. So I get this experientially, not just, professionally here. So because Gemini energy moves in a spiral, you're over here, you're over there, you're doing this, you've got your guitar over here, and now you're interested in weaving, now you're interested in writing, now you're doing all this stuff. So like I always say to anybody that has a kid with Gemini in them, if you can borrow a guitar, unless you've got money to do all this, you can borrow a guitar, then do that, because then when they're interested in something else, if you wind up coming back to the guitar, you can buy it if it turns out to be sticking. But, this is the jack of all trades. And I don't want to say master of none, because certainly you can also master things. But the energy is all over the place, right? You know that about yourself. So here's Mars, the rules energy, in Gemini. So it's going to be very scattered. So you're going to find that you're going back to, and this is a big theme, returning to things. So of course love could be returning from the past, right? We talked about that. Money efforts, creative projects, you physically as far as traveling could go back to places from the past, all of this. And this has to do with changing how you use your energy. Now, you're never going to stop having this spiral energy because it's just how you're wired. Okay, so, but what you can do is you can become more efficient with your energy. And Mars is going to help you do that. Partly because Mars in retrograde can often make people lazy. And when we get lazy, we get more interested in figuring out, I don't want to say shortcuts but it could be shortcuts, but it's really a more efficient way of using your energy. Where if you have all this stuff to do, then you can go through and either, first of all, start picking things off, saying, you know what, don't really need to do that now, don't really need to do that now, don't really need to do that now. Where when the Mars energy was direct, you might just try to be doing all of it. So you pick some things off, You prioritize some things, say, okay, this can be done in the next month, this can be done sometime in the next 6 months, and then you sort of just become more efficient with how you're doing your to-do list. And whatever things you learn from this cycle, you can actually take a lot of that with you moving on. So that is something that's very exciting. This is a really big time to work in the backdrop too, okay? Because it doesn't mean you're not going to be busy. You might find that you're very inspired, and it's going to affect different people differently in different moments. But just kind of remember the story of the tides. The retrograde time, which is, like we talked about, I mean, part of this is clearing out mid-October, and you will feel the shift. But part of this is going through to spring of 2023, fall 2023 for you all down under. So this is an extended period of time of there being a lot of benefit for you hanging out on the shore and seeing what the tide brings in, rather than trying to set your boat afloat. The time to set your boat afloat is like the spring or fall for you all down under. So let's say that you are a Gemini who's a writer or a creator. Many Geminis are prolific creators. This would be a great time, if you're inspired and it's flowing, to work on your books, to work on your comedy routine, to work on your, whatever it is that you're doing. And if you want to launch little mini things out into the world, like you're experimenting, saying, try this on, if it's nothing big, then you can just put some stuff out there, play around with some stuff. But if you've got some big projects, these are the ones you want to work on in the backdrop and then launch, like in March into April. And I'll give you the dates. And actually, if you're not part of my exclusive portal, most of the work I do in the world is free, but I do have a new exclusive content portal that does get some things super earlier than I even post them, does get new content every month. And one of the things in there is your guide to the retrogrades and in 2023, with showing all the open periods and all the shadow periods, so that if you're, doing some planning, that you can see that. So you can actually go to Annie B Astrology to sign up for that. .com. Okay, so anyway, your big projects, the ones that want that oomph, that want that Mars like juicy and moving forward, right? And all of those energies, and Jupiter moving forward and all of that. The big projects, you might want to work on those in the backdrop and then save them for the big rollout. But it is a good time for experimenting. It is a good time for throwing some little things out there, and some things can really stick, which would be very cool. Something else that's noteworthy about this Mars and Gemini energy, it's going through your first house, is this thing about how you use your energy also leaves you susceptible to respiratory colds. This is a Gemini thing. Certainly everybody can get a respiratory cold, but Gemini does rule the respiratory system. So you might need to get a new routine to keep your wellness. Now, I'm not a doctor, so anything I kind of throw out there for you to consider, definitely want to do your own research based on your situation, check with your practitioners and such. But, certain types of probiotics might be helpful. Certain, B vitamins for certain people might be helpful. Things, for your immune system, vitamin C. Things like this for your immune system. Again, I'm not saying this is good for you. I don't really know what your profile is, but it might be a time where you redo your wellness system to be more protective so that you can keep your wellness. Now, on the topic of writing, Geminis tend to write. I do also know some Geminis that write, like weave worlds in their head. Okay, you weave worlds and have all these ideas, but getting them on paper or typing them or slowing down enough to actually get them out is really difficult. And if you are one of those people where you can't put the mind space to the keyboard. You can tell I've been writing for a long time. Just kidding. I don't think I ever was doing writing on a keyboard, but I mean a typewriter. But anyways, so my suggestion for you all is a recorder app. Okay? Now there's somebody close to me that I'm helping with this, and this is why it's fresh in my mind. If you're a Gemini or you have a Gemini close to you that has all of these ideas, record them. Just say, hey, tell me about that. And with their permission, right, of course, If it's you, you'll be knowing it because they're doing it. Record the ideas, and then you can pay to have them transcribed. So if you really want to write a book, but you can't sit down to do it, this might be your way, and this retrograde time might be the time. And you can use this for any other ideas you have. You know, someone else can transcribe them. You can, I like Upwork.com. I'm not promoting it. You know, I don't have any affiliation with them. I'm just saying stuff that I've used before. But there are places where you can interact with people internationally or from your country to help you to do things like that. You just search for transcription, and you can find someone. So this might be your time to shine as far as major creative work. So when I was saying that people might get lazy, yeah, you might get lazy for the things that you're supposed to do, but you might get supercharged for your creative efforts, or vice versa, or just everything might go into a lull. It's hard to tell. So a lot of juicy, beautiful energy is happening here. And then we have to add the next layer. Okay, so the next layer is, actually, before we do that, let's just talk really quickly about the full moon, because that is in a nice angle. So while we're doing the sweet stuff here, we may as well. October 9th, we've got a 16 degree of Aries full moon. So like the days from the 6th to the 12th, closest to the 9th, probably the most intense. Fullness, drama, completion, fruition, coming to health, to recognition, to, you know, your friendships, to a social circle, to some kind of internet-based project or community project. And everyone can get a kiss from this, all the Geminis, but those of you who are in that, like, say 11 degrees to 21 degrees, so like around June 1st through June 11th, the closer to around the 6th or so, the more you all get that kiss from that beautiful aspect. Okay, now, now we have to, well, we don't have to erase the goodies, I guess. We'll leave the goodies on. But now we have to add to it the eclipses. So October 25th, there's a 2 degree Scorpio eclipse. It's a solar eclipse. November 8th, we've got a 16 degree Taurus lunar eclipse. You will be feeling this November eclipse in October as well, and you will start feeling both the eclipses even in September. And the storylines of the Taurus-Scorpio eclipse cycle have been going from the end of 2021 and will go to the end of 2023. So we're about halfway through now, storylines that have been coming up. And these storylines can surface at any time during the year. We had actually a strong bubble up of them this summer, or winter for you all down under, because of different aspects. I talked about that in that time. But in any case, big changes to relationships, your own autonomy. This is what's at play here. There's a shuffling around of financial resources, emotional resources. There's a switch from some focus on things to focus on relationships. There's could be a change in priority from you focusing on some things for yourself where you're putting power into your relationship or collaboration. And all of this is in the health sector. Health, daily work, pets. So, you know, energy shuffling around in those arenas. Eclipses tend to bring dramatic endings and brilliant new beginnings. They are, like I said, in a tough angle for Gemini. This isn't the best angle, not like all this other beauteous stuff that we've been watching here. So you might feel that a little bit, you know, there might be some kind of ding, some kind of difficulty, some kind of resistance, which is something that goes on. But the universe is basically moving energy around. It's taking some stuff away, and in that spot that was left open, it's filling in different stuff. The physics law that energy is not created nor destroyed, can't be created nor destroyed, it simply changes form, is very alive and well. An example of this, I see this happen a ton. A grandparent dies and a kid is born at eclipse time. And of course that can happen anytime, but I see this happen at eclipse time a lot, and it really shows that, you know, that vacuous hole that's left by that parents leaving, or grandparent leaving, could be, you know, now it's filled by this baby, which maybe is the grandparent reincarnating, if you believe in that, for all we know. But the point is, it's this vacuous hole that seems like you're like, oh God, this thing is empty. And now it's getting filled in. So you'll notice this, and sometimes there's a little lag time between the time energy is cleared and energy is filled, but do know that it will be filled. Now the last thing we have to talk about, actually I want to give you some more resources about this. So Mars retrograde is super important and Mercury retrograde is super important, but we're not covering them as well as they need to be covered here. So if you search for Mars retrograde or Mercury retrograde in Annie Botticelli, or you go to anniehelpsyouTV.com and go to my retrograde playlist, you will find my resources there. I also have blogs on both of those topics. Now for the eclipses, I suggest you go to anniehelpsyouTV.com, which is how you get to my YouTube channel. Go to the eclipse playlist, watch eclipses in Scorpio and eclipses in Taurus, because again, we're not doing justice the kinds of things that you might be seeing here. I did a general overview, but there's a lot to this, and you probably want to know how this could affect you. So you can go there and check that out. Now additionally, because this is happening for you in your 6th house, this one in October, we'll talk more about the November one in November, but look for my eclipses in Virgo or the 6th house video as well, because that's the house. These are the signs. This is the house that's being aspected. Now, because this is a 2-degree eclipse, even in the Placidus chart, in the whole house chart, everybody's 6th house is being affected. But in the Placidus chart, all of you have a chance to actually feel that in the 5th house, which guess what the 5th house is? True love. And kids and all those other things we talked about before, and your bucket list and your hobbies and your, fun. But yeah, so a solar eclipse, new energy happening in your true love house is another layer here. So if you watch those eclipses in Leo, you'll be very well prepared to understand what's happening. And while you're at it, look for my Saturn square Uranus video, because this is a big doozy whopper of a transit. And so essentially what it is doing is it is cracking the conflictive energies of, just get rid of all this here. All right, so the conflictive energies, Saturn and Uranus could not be more different. And so we've got Saturn, we've got Uranus, they're in a square, 90-degree angle, because they're 3 signs apart, Aquarius to Pisces, Pisces to Aries, Aries to Taurus. It's a 90 degree, it's a conflictive square. Saturn is the old stodgy way, but tried and true, and also can include ancient wisdom and things that worked, and stability. Uranus is fledgling, futuristic, unstable, erratic, new, revolutionary, and those forces have been clashing, and we've seen that at work in the world, but it's also been at work in our psyche and our individual stories. So we're really going through this strong curve of taking any of those stodgy belief systems that we have that aren't working for us and putting new energy into them, and putting anything new, anything especially radical, through the lens of Saturn. I like to put the Saturn glasses on and say, okay, is that going to be sustainable? What do we have to do to make it sustainable? Is that going to happen now, or are we just seeing so far in the future and we have to wait a little bit? These are getting run through each other's filters to hopefully find this great balance. But you will be feeling this force at work, and it will be a closing of a cycle, and a lot of the things that occurred, in the world will be having some sort of notable progress. And for you personally as well. If you resonate with how I teach and you want to learn astrology, I have so many different ways that you can do that. I've got a ton of free things, which you can see my blogs at anniehelpsyou.com. You can see my blogs at cozybysweetstarlight.com. You can watch my YouTube horoscopes and other astrology videos at anniehelpsyouTV.com, also syndicated on my Astro Kisses podcast. The anniehelpsyouTV.com is my YouTube channel. If you would like to have some wellness and creating financial abundance free courses, go to lumelife.com, L-U-M-E, life.com. There I also have 2 of my most comprehensive astrology courses, including Astrology Basics and Beyond, and my Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery Course. If you want to do astrology as all or part of your profession, I can teach you how. And even if you don't want to do it professionally, this course, which has at least 100 modules in it, it's super comprehensive and growing. You can learn how to help yourself and your family and your friends. And if you want to do it a little bit more low-key for my little, very low subscription exclusive content portal access, you can have even more learning how to do it yourself, read your natal chart, access to a natal chart, and plus extra and sometimes early content at AnnieBAstrology.com. Also, check out my books. Books are not very expensive. They're available through Kindle as well, and one of them is available through Audible. You can check out Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days. It's a beautiful book. I've heard a lot of people carry it around in their purses. It's got affirmations and just other ways to stay connected to spirit. And Planetology, how to align with the natural rhythms of the universe. This is a gorgeous, very long, comprehensive textbook that has simple sections that you can follow and go back to over and over again to help you align with the natural rhythms of the universe. You will find this book on the shelf at all the major booksellers in the Mind, Body, Spirit section. And you can find both of these online and through any other venue. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.